2026 will not reward talent. It will reward consistency. Ladies and gentlemen, talent is impressive, but consistency is unstoppable. We've been taught to admire gifted people who speak well, think fast, and learn quickly. And talent does matter. But here's the truth most people don't want to hear. Talent gets attention. Consistency gets results. As we step into 2026, the world is not asking, how gifted are you? It's asking, how often do you show up? Because talent is potential. Consistency is proof. You don't get paid for what you can do. You get paid for what you do repeatedly. Consistency is the force that turns average effort into exceptional outcomes. It's quiet, it's unglamorous, it doesn't trend on social media, but it compounds daily, weekly, yearly, until one day people call you lucky, not realizing they're standing at the end of your discipline. See, consistency is boring to the undisciplined, but priceless to the committed. Most people wait for motivation. Consistent people move without it. Most people rely on bursts of inspiration. Consistent people rely on systems. And here's the real shift happening in 2026. The marketplace is becoming less forgiving of inconsistency. Opportunities are faster. Competition is sharper. Attention spans are shorter. And in this environment, raw talent without follow-through is expensive and replaceable. But consistency builds trust. Consistency builds credibility. Consistency builds momentum. And momentum is more valuable than talent. Let me say this clearly. You don't become consistent after you succeed. You succeed because you became consistent. Your habits are voting every day for the future you're going to live in. And the identity you want, leader, builder, expert, entrepreneur, does not come from desire. It comes from repetition. You don't rise to your goals. You fall to your systems. 2026 will not reward the person who starts strong and disappears. It will reward the person who keeps going when it's quiet, when it's slow, when nobody's clapping. Because consistency is how ordinary people produce extraordinary lives. So don't ask yourself, am I talented enough? Ask yourself, am I consistent enough? Because in 2026, the winners won't be the most gifted in the room. They'll be the most committed. And commitment, repeated daily, always beats talent left unused. Talent opens doors, but consistency keeps them open. Talent may create the first impression, but consistency builds the reputation. Talent might get you noticed once, but consistency ensures you are remembered, trusted, and chosen again. In a world obsessed with shortcuts and overnight success, this truth often gets ignored, but it never stops being true. Talent is potential. It's what you could do. Consistency is performance. It's what you actually do, again and again, regardless of mood, circumstance, or applause. Many people are talented, but very few are consistent. And that is why talent alone is never rare enough to guarantee success. There will always be someone just as gifted, just as smart, just as creative. The difference maker is not ability, it's reliability. Consistency is what turns a single opportunity into a career. Anyone can perform well once. Anyone can be motivated for a week. Anyone can start strong. But success belongs to those who can repeat excellence long after the excitement fades. The marketplace doesn't reward bursts of brilliance. It rewards dependable value. People trust what they can predict. And consistency is what makes you predictable in the best way. Doors open because of talent, but they stay open because of discipline. Discipline to show up when it's inconvenient. Discipline to work when no one is watching. Discipline to keep improving when praise is gone and results are slow. This is where most people quit, not because they lack talent, but because they lack endurance. Consistency requires patience, and patience is uncomfortable in a culture addicted to speed. What makes consistency powerful is that it compounds. Small actions done daily quietly outperform massive efforts done occasionally. One focused hour every day beats 10 scattered hours once a month. One clear message repeated over time beats 100 brilliant ideas never executed. Consistency doesn't demand perfection. It demands persistence. It allows room for mistakes, growth, and learning because progress is measured over time, not moments. Consistency also shapes identity. You don't become confident by thinking about confidence. You become confident by consistently doing the work. You don't become skilled by wanting skill. You become skilled by practicing even when progress feels invisible. Over time, consistency turns effort into instinct and discipline into character. Eventually, what once required effort becomes who you are. Talent without consistency creates frustration. You know what you're capable of, yet your results don't match your potential. Consistency removes that gap. It aligns who you are with what you produce. It replaces wishful thinking with measurable progress. It transforms ambition into structure and dreams into systems. In the long run, doors don't stay open for the most gifted person in the room. They stay open for the most dependable one. The one who delivers, the one who improves, the one who keeps showing up. Talent may impress, but consistency builds trust, and trust is the currency that sustains success. That is why talent opens doors, but consistency keeps them open, because success is not built on what you do once, but on what you are willing to do for a lifetime. Consistency compounds quietly. It rarely announces itself, rarely demands attention, and almost never looks impressive in the beginning. In fact, in its early stages, consistency can feel invisible. You show up, you put in the work, you repeat the process, and nothing seems to change. No applause, no instant results, no dramatic breakthrough, yet beneath the surface, something powerful is happening. Momentum is being built, skill is being sharpened, and trust is being formed. The results are delayed, but they are not denied. Most people quit in this quiet phase. They mistake silence for failure and slow progress for lack of potential. But consistency doesn't work on the timeline of excitement. It works on the timeline of compounding. Small actions, when repeated daily, grow into forces that are impossible to ignore. One improvement doesn't change much, but hundreds of improvements stack on top of each other until average effort produces extraordinary outcomes. The danger of quiet consistency is that it doesn't feed the ego. There are no shortcuts, no dramatic stories, no viral moments, just repetition, just discipline, just doing the right thing when no one is watching. That's why it's so rare and why it's so powerful. Anyone can be motivated when progress is obvious. Consistency requires faith when progress is subtle. Compounding doesn't reward intensity, it rewards duration. A short burst of effort can create movement, but only sustained effort creates direction. The person who commits to daily progress will always outperform the person who relies on occasional brilliance. Over time, the gap between them widens, not because one is more talented, but because one stayed committed long enough for compounding to take effect. Consistency also multiplies confidence. Each small win reinforces belief. Each repeated action strengthens identity. You begin to trust yourself, not because of what you promise, but because of what you repeatedly deliver. This self-trust becomes a competitive advantage. When challenges arise, consistent people don't panic. They lean on the habits they've already built. What makes compounding so deceptive is that results appear suddenly, even though they were built slowly. From the outside, it looks like overnight success. From the inside, it feels like years of quiet preparation finally catching up. That moment doesn't come from luck. It comes from staying when it would have been easier to stop. Consistency compounds not just results, but reputation. People may not notice your effort at first, but they notice patterns. They notice who shows up. They notice who delivers. Over time, reliability becomes your brand. Opportunities start finding you, not because you are louder, but because you are proven. The quiet nature of consistency is also its protection. It keeps you focused on progress instead of comparison. While others chase attention, consistent people build substance. While others wait for the perfect moment, consistent people create momentum. And when the moment finally arrives, they are ready, not because they rushed, but because they endured. In the end, consistency doesn't need validation to work. It doesn't ask for recognition or reassurance. It simply compounds day after day, choice after choice, until the results speak on its behalf. And when they finally do, they speak with a volume that talent alone could never achieve. The marketplace doesn't reward intention, it rewards execution. Good ideas are everywhere. Strong opinions are everywhere. Ambition, passion, and potential are everywhere, but results are rare. Not because people lack vision, but because most people stop at intention. They plan, they prepare, they talk, they wait, and the world keeps moving without paying attention. The market is not impressed by what you meant to do. It only responds to what you actually deliver. Intentions live in your mind, execution lies in reality. And the marketplace only transacts in reality. Customers don't pay for effort, emotion, or excuses. They pay for solutions. Employers don't reward plans, they reward performance. Opportunities don't respond to promises, they respond to proof. Execution is the bridge between what you want and what you receive, and without that bridge, nothing moves. Many people confuse clarity with progress. They feel productive because they understand what should be done, but understanding is not the same as doing. Knowledge without application creates the illusion of momentum, but the marketplace sees through it immediately. It doesn't care how much you know if you can't apply it under pressure, on time, and at scale. Execution requires courage. It forces you to risk being wrong, seen, and judged. That's why so many people hide behind intention. It feels safer. You can't fail at what you never finish, but the cost of safety is stagnation. While you're perfecting plans, someone else is learning through action, and the market almost always rewards the one who moves, not the one who waits. Execution also creates feedback. You don't grow by thinking, you grow by responding. When you execute, you get data. You see what works, what doesn't, and what needs to improve. Intention produces confidence without evidence. Execution produces competence through experience. Over time, this competence compounds into authority and trust. The marketplace values speed paired with consistency. Not reckless action, but decisive movement. The ability to take an idea and turn it into a result, then repeat that process again and again. This is why execution is so valuable. It turns potential into productivity. It converts imagination into income. It transforms vision into value. There's also a discipline to execution that intention never demands. Execution requires structure, deadlines, accountability, and follow-through. It forces you to confront resistance, fatigue, and doubt. Intention can feel inspiring. Execution often feels uncomfortable, but discomfort is the price of progress. And the marketplace always pays those who are willing to pay that price first. In the long run, intention becomes invisible. No one remembers what you planned to do, only what you produced. Results create reputation, delivery creates demand. Execution builds leverage. And once you become known as someone who gets things done, opportunities increase. Not because you talk better, but because you finish stronger. That is why the marketplace doesn't reward intention, it rewards execution. Because execution is where value is created, problems are solved, and trust is earned. Everything else is just potential waiting to be used. Boring habits create extraordinary outcomes, not the dramatic moments, not the intense bursts of motivation, not the once-in-a-while breakthroughs people love to talk about. Real progress is built on routines so simple and repetitive that most people ignore them, and that's exactly why they work. The habits that change lives are rarely exciting, but they are relentlessly effective. Boring habits don't rely on emotion. They don't wait for inspiration or perfect conditions. They operate on schedule, not on feeling. Waking up at the same time, doing the same focused work, reviewing the same fundamentals, making the same disciplined choices day after day. None of this feels extraordinary in the moment. Yet over time, these small, ordinary actions stack into results that look anything but ordinary. Most people overestimate what intensity can do and underestimate what repetition can do. They believe success requires constant excitement when in reality, it requires consistency. Motivation is unreliable. Habits are dependable. When motivation fades, and it always does, habits keep progress moving forward. This is why people with simple routines often outperform those with greater talent but less structure. Boring habits remove decision fatigue. You don't waste energy negotiating with yourself every day about what needs to be done. The work is already decided. This creates mental clarity and frees up focus for improvement. Instead of relying on willpower, you rely on systems. And systems don't get tired, distracted, or discouraged. They just run. What makes boring habits powerful is their cumulative effect. One disciplined choice doesn't change much, but thousands of them change everything. Reading a few pages a day doesn't feel impressive, but over years it builds deep knowledge. Practicing a skill for a short time daily doesn't seem significant, but over time it creates mastery. Saving a small amount consistently may look slow, but compounding turns it into freedom. The outcome feels extraordinary only because the process was so ordinary. Boring habits also build resilience. When challenges arise, consistent routines create stability. You don't panic when things get hard because your foundation is solid. You've already trained yourself to keep going. Progress becomes less about emotion and more about identity. You don't ask whether you feel like doing the work, you do it because it's who you are. Extraordinary outcomes are rarely the result of extraordinary effort. They are the result of ordinary effort applied without interruption. The people who succeed low. NG term are not always the most creative or the most driven. They are the most disciplined. They understand that greatness is built in silence long before it is recognized in public. Boring habits also protect you from burnout. Instead of extreme cycles of effort and exhaustion, they create sustainable progress. You don't need to push harder. You just need to show up again. This steady pace allows growth without collapse, ambition without chaos, and success without constant pressure. In the end, what looks extraordinary from the outside often feels routine from the inside. Success is not glamorous while it's being built. It's repetitive. It's predictable. It's sometimes dull, but that dullness is the secret. Because while others chase excitement, disciplined people build results. That is why boring habits create extraordinary outcomes. Not because they are exciting, but because they are unstoppable when practiced long enough. Identity follows behavior, not desire. Who you become is not determined by what you want, but by what you repeatedly do. Desire is easy. Intention is comfortable. Wanting costs nothing. But behavior demands action, and action shapes reality. The person you see yourself as in the future is being formed right now by the choices you make when no one is watching. Many people believe identity comes first. That once they feel confident, disciplined, successful, or focused, their actions will change. But the truth works in reverse. You don't act because of who you are. You become who you are because of how you act. Every repeated behavior casts a vote for the type of person you are becoming. Over time, those votes add up, and eventually they define you. Desire lives in imagination. Behavior lives in discipline. You can desire confidence, but confidence is built by consistently doing things that challenge you. You can desire success, but success is built by daily execution of unglamorous tasks. You can desire change, but change only happens when behavior changes first. Without new behavior, desire turns into frustration. Behavior has a way of exposing truth. You may say you value growth, but your habits reveal whether you do. You may say you want excellence, but your daily standards show what you tolerate. Identity is not shaped by what you claim, it is shaped by what you practice. Repetition turns action into habit, and habit turns behavior into character. This is why lasting transformation doesn't come from motivation alone. Motivation fades, emotion fluctuates, but behavior, once structured and repeated, creates stability. When you consistently act in alignment with the person you want to become, belief follows naturally. You stop trying to convince yourself, you prove it to yourself through action. Identity built on behavior is durable. It doesn't collapse under pressure because it's reinforced by experience. When challenges come, you don't rely on hope, you rely on habits. You trust yourself not because of affirmations, but because of evidence. You've shown yourself over time that you do what you say you'll do. Behavior also removes confusion. Instead of asking, who am I? The answer becomes obvious through action. If you write every day, you are a writer. If you train consistently, you are disciplined. If you show up prepared, you are professional. Identity stops being something you search for and becomes something you live out. The mistake many people make is waiting for desire to turn into identity before taking action. But desire without behavior weakens over time. It turns into doubt, than regret. Behavior, even when uncomfortable, strengthens desire by giving it direction. Action clarifies purpose. Over time, behavior reshapes self-image. What once felt forced becomes natural. What once required effort becomes instinct. You don't rise to a new identity through wishing, you grow into it through repetition. Small, consistent behaviors eventually rewrite how you see yourself and how others see you. In the end, identity is not a declaration, it is a demonstration. It is not built by wanting more, but by doing more, consistently. And once behavior changes, identity follows without resistance. 2026 will expose the difference between dabblers and builders. The gap has always existed, but now it will become impossible to ignore. For years, dabbling has been disguised as progress, starting things without finishing, learning without applying, planning without producing. Builders, on the other hand, have been quietly laying foundations, brick by brick, without needing recognition. In 2026, the outcomes of these two approaches will no longer look similar. One will lead to frustration, the other will lead to momentum. Dabblers are attracted to beginnings. They enjoy the excitement of new ideas, new tools, new strategies. They move quickly at first, fueled by curiosity and short bursts of motivation. But when resistance appears, when results slow down, when the work becomes repetitive, when discipline is required, they move on. Dabbling feels productive, but it rarely produces anything durable. It creates activity without accumulation. Builders think differently. They are not obsessed with starting. They are committed to finishing. They understand that progress is not measured by how many things you touch, but by how many things you complete. Builders are willing to stay when it gets boring, unclear, and uncomfortable. They don't confuse movement with momentum. They understand that depth always outperforms novelty. What makes 2026 different is the environment. Competition is higher. Attention is shorter. Tolerance for inconsistency is lower. Dabbling, which once seemed harmless, now becomes costly. Half-finished projects, inconsistent effort, and scattered focus will no longer be enough to survive, let alone thrive. The world will reward those who can build systems, skills, and value over time. Builders benefit from compounding. Each effort strengthens the next. EAC. Each lesson learned is applied forward. Each mistake becomes material for improvement. Over time, builders gain leverage, not because they work harder every day, but because their past work keeps working for them. Dabblers start over repeatedly. Builders stack progress. There is also a difference in mindset. Dabblers chase outcomes. Builders commit to processes. Dabblers want quick validation. Builders are patient with delayed rewards. Dabblers ask, is this still working? Builders ask, what needs to be improved? This shift in thinking creates vastly different futures. In 2026, consistency will no longer be optional. Reliability will become currency. People will seek out those who deliver, not those who promise. Builders earn trust because they show proof over time. Dabblers lose credibility because their history is fragmented. The difference won't be in what they say, it will be in what they've built. This exposure won't be dramatic or loud. It will show up quietly, in opportunities gained or missed, in growth or stagnation, in confidence or frustration. Some will wonder why things aren't working anymore. Others will experience momentum that seems sudden but was years in the making. 2026 will not be kind to surface-level effort. It will favor depth, commitment, and follow-through. And as the year unfolds, it will become clear who was experimenting and who was building something meant to last. As we move into 2026, understand this clearly. The future will not be decided by who is the most gifted, the most creative, or the most confident in the room. It will be decided by who is the most committed. Talent may open the door, but only consistency keeps you in the room. Quiet habits will continue to compound. Execution will speak louder than intention. Identity will be shaped by daily behavior. And the difference between dabblers and builders will no longer be hidden. This is not a warning, it's an invitation. An invitation to stop relying on potential and start building proof. An invitation to choose discipline over drama, systems over shortcuts, and progress over perfection. Because the people who win in 2026 won't be the ones who waited for the right moment. They'll be the ones who created momentum when it was inconvenient. So decide now who you will be. Not by what you say you want, but by what you are willing to do consistently. Show up, do the work, stay longer than comfort allows, build when others quit. Because in 2026, consistency won't just be an advantage, it will be the difference between being left behind and being unstoppable.